America has always been fascinated by the darkness that lurks beneath the surface of everyday life. Some crimes are so shocking, so unthinkable, that they change us forever. These are 5 true crime cases that shook America to its core. Title card: True Crimes That Shook America, December 20th, 1968. A quiet lover's lane in Benicia, California. 2 teenagers, David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, sat in a parked car, enjoying the night. They would never make it home. A killer approached their vehicle and opened fire. David died instantly. Betty Lou tried to run. She made it 28 feet. This was just the beginning. Over the next several years, the killer would claim at least 5 confirmed victims. But what truly terrified America wasn't just the murders. It was the letters. The killer sent cryptic messages to newspapers, taunting police, bragging about his crimes. He called himself the Zodiac. Dear editor, I am the murderer of the taxi driver. To prove this, here is a blood-stained piece of his shirt. Despite one of the largest investigations in California history, the Zodiac was never caught. Hundreds of suspects, thousands of tips, 0 arrests. More than 50 years later, amateur detectives and professional investigators still hunt for answers. The case remains open. The killer's identity remains unknown. The Zodiac Killer showed America that some monsters simply vanish into the night, transition, fade to black. March 1st, 1932. America was deep in the Great Depression. But one name still brought hope and pride to every household: Charles Lindbergh. The first man to fly solo across the Atlantic, an American hero. And on that March night, he became something else entirely: a grieving father. Someone entered the Lindbergh home in Hopewell, New Jersey. They climbed a homemade ladder to a second-floor nursery, and they took 20-month-old Charles Lindbergh Jr. a ransom note demanded $50,000. The entire nation held its breath. President Herbert Hoover himself called it a challenge to the whole of civilization. For 72 days, America prayed for the baby's safe return. Newspapers provided daily updates. Al Capone even offered to help from his jail cell. May 12th, 1932, a truck driver discovered a small body in the woods, just miles from the Lindbergh home. The baby had been dead since the night of the kidnapping. 2 years later, police arrested Bruno Richard Hauptmann, a German immigrant and carpenter. The evidence: ransom money found in his garage, wood from the ladder matching his attic floorboards, and handwriting that matched the ransom notes. Hauptmann went to the electric chair in 1936, maintaining his innocence to the very end. Some still believe he acted alone. Others think he had accomplices who were never caught. The Lindbergh kidnapping changed America forever. Congress passed the Lindbergh Law, making kidnapping a federal offense. It was called the crime of the century, and it taught parents everywhere that even heroes aren't safe. Transition, fade to black. The summer of 1969. Woodstock. Moon landing. Peace and love. The counterculture revolution was in full bloom. And then everything changed. August 9th, 1969. 10,050 Cielo Drive, Los Angeles. A beautiful home in the hills. Inside, actress Sharon Tate, 8.5 months pregnant, was hosting friends. By morning, 5 people were dead. The murders were savage, realistic. The word pig was written in blood on the front door. The next night, it happened again. Lino and Rosemary LaBianca, murdered in their own home. More blood, more messages. Los Angeles went into lockdown. Gun stores sold out. No one felt safe. Who was doing this, and why? The answer was more disturbing than anyone imagined. Charles Manson, a failed musician, a charismatic drifter, and a man who convinced young followers that he was Jesus Christ reincarnated. Manson had built a cult called the Family at Spahn Ranch, an abandoned movie set. He preached an apocalyptic race war he called Helter Skelter, taken from a Beatles song. Manson ordered the murders to trigger this war. His followers obeyed without question. In court, Manson carved an X into his forehead. His followers did the same. Manson and his followers received life sentences. He died in prison in 2017, still maintaining he never killed anyone himself. He just had others do it for him. The Manson murders killed more than 9 people. They killed the idealism of the 1960s. They showed America that peace and love had a dark side. Transition. Fade to black. He was handsome, charming, intelligent, a law student, a political volunteer, someone you'd trust. His name was Theodore Robert Bundy, and he was one of the most prolific serial killers in American history. Between 1974 and 1978, Bundy murdered at least 30 young women across 7 states. The actual number? Probably much higher. His victims were typically college-aged women with long hair parted down the middle. He often approached them in public places, pretending to be injured, wearing a fake cast or leg brace. "Excuse me, could you help me carry these books to my car?" Once they were at his Volkswagen Beetle, he would strike. What happened next was too horrific to describe in detail. Bundy was arrested in Utah in 1975, but he escaped, twice. During his second escape from a Colorado jail, he made his way to Florida. January 5th, 1978. The Chi Omega sorority house at Florida State University. In just 15 minutes, Bundy attacked 4 women, killing 2. He was caught days later during a routine traffic stop. This time, there would be no escape. Bundy's trial became a media sensation, the first nationally televised murder trial. Bundy defended himself, cross-examining witnesses, acting as his own attorney. He was articulate, confident. Some women in the courtroom sent him love letters, but the evidence was overwhelming. He was found guilty and sentenced to death. Judge Edward Coward said, "Take care of yourself, young man. You'd have made a good lawyer." January 24th, 1989. Ted Bundy was executed in Florida's electric chair. Outside the prison, crowds celebrated with signs reading, "Burn Bundy, burn." Bundy changed how America understood serial killers. Before him, we expected monsters. He showed us that evil can wear a handsome face and a charming smile. He taught us that the most dangerous predators look just like everyone else. Transition. Fade to black. For 17 years, a ghost terrorized America. He targeted universities and airlines. He built bombs by hand. And no one knew who he was. They called him the Unabomber. UN for universities, A for airlines, bomber for, well, that was obvious. May 25th, 1978, Northwestern University. A package exploded, injuring a security guard. It was the first of 16 bombs. 3 people dead. 23 injured. Scientists, computer store owners, advertising executives. The targets seemed random, but they weren't. 1,995. The Unabomber sent a 35,000-word manifesto to the New York Times and the Washington Post. His demand, publish it, or more bombs would follow. The Industrial Revolution and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. Against FBI advice, the papers published it. The bomber railed against technology, modern society, and what he called the industrial technological system. Thousands read the manifesto, but only one person recognized the writing style. David Kaczynski realized with horror. It sounded like his brother. April 3rd, 1996. FBI agents surrounded a tiny, primitive cabin in Lincoln, Montana. No electricity, no running water. Just books, journals, and bomb-making materials. Inside was Theodore John Kaczynski, a 53-year-old former mathematics professor who had once taught at UC Berkeley. A genius with an IQ of 167 who had walked away from academia in 1971 to live in the woods. For 25 years, he had lived in isolation, teaching himself survival skills and plotting his war against modern technology, all while building bombs from scratch. Kaczynski pleaded guilty to avoid the death penalty. He received 8 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. He died in federal prison in 2023. The Unabomber's manifesto is still read today, especially by those who fear technology's growing control over our lives. Some see him as a prophet, most see him as a terrorist. His 17-year bombing campaign was the longest and most expensive manhunt in FBI history. It cost millions. It took thousands of agents. And in the end, it was solved by a brother who loved his sibling, but loved humanity more. Transition, fade to black. 5 cases. Decades of terror. Countless lives destroyed. These crimes didn't just shock America, they changed it. They led to new laws, new investigative techniques, new ways of understanding criminal psychology. They taught us about evil's many faces. But most importantly, they remind us to remember the victims, the innocent people whose lives were cut short, whose families still grieve, whose stories deserve to be told. The cases may be closed, or cold, or somewhere in between, but their impact on America is permanent. Because some crimes don't just make headlines, they become part of our history. Final title card, in memory of all victims.